We are very, very honored to be here with Hadas Wittenberg Silverstein, Israel's Consul General to Vilnius, Lithuania, or as we Litvaks call it, Vilna. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me. And I'll just correct, we have an embassy here.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's a bit different from the consulate generals that you know from America.
You know what? I'm in New York, so everyone's a consul general or a UN representative. So sorry about that.
No, it's good.
All right. So first of all, I just wanted to say personally how meaningful this is for me because my family is from Lithuania. There aren't many people with my last name Poupko, but in the Yad Vashem, I shouldn't say directly, in the list of people killed in the Holocaust, there are more than 700 people with the last name. It was a common name in Lida, but also there were plenty in Vilna. So if you can just share what it's like to come as an ambassador of the State of Israel to a city with so much Jewish history, so much so it was known as Yerushalayim of Lita, and in the minds of Litvaks, it was Yerushalayim of the whole Europe.
Definitely. So thank you very much. And I will just say that we become friends on Twitter just because of this Lithuanian, and it's quite amazing. I arrived here with my family from Israel last summer, so it's almost 7 months that we are here. And I'm amazed by the amount of people who has like Litvak roots or that, you know, are parts of the Gaon from Vilna. Family or roots, which I think reflects very well, I mean, the richness of the community here, and which also, I mean, related to your question, I think that it's a great honor to be an ambassador in Israel. I think that all over, but especially in a place like Lithuania, that has so rich Jewish history, and we could actually talk about it later. There were some very, very interesting and positive years where the Jewish community here was flourishing, and Jewish people were extremely involved in actually building Lithuania. Of course, that the very, very problematic part of the Holocaust, in which unfortunately Lithuania, I think, was among the places, and some even say the top place in terms of percentage that people from the Jewish community were murdered here. And this is something that is still keeping us busy with regards to Holocaust memorial and commemoration, with regards to monuments that are honoring the Jewish people and righteous among nations, which also have big numbers. And of course, also the part that after the Holocaust, in which Lithuania was built as a modern country and Israel was formed, of course. And we are in the embassy, you know, trying to put all of that together. So looking always to the past, but always with an eye, I mean, forwards when it comes to context of culture and economy and cyber and innovation and security, of course. So it's an honor, and it's also a great pleasure.
Wow, so it's not an easy thing to juggle. There's a lot going on there. It's interesting because in terms of Lithuanian Jewry, like you mentioned, I think it's 94% of Lithuanian Jewry was killed in the Holocaust. And so in terms of the body of the Jewish people, of Lithuanian Jewish people, Lithuanian Jewry was almost erased. But if you look at the culture, at the what it passed on, every major yeshiva almost carries a Lithuanian name. Some of them are no longer in Lithuania proper today, but you have Ponovich, Grodna, Radin, all these names that were you know, of Lithuanian Jewry, and the ideas that they passed on, their passion for Torah, their feistiness, it really went on to shape generations. Whether it's also, you know, afterwards, people like Abba Kovner and I believe also Katsetnik was, but I'm not sure. But really, where does that come from? Is there some kind of energy there? What do you see in
So
Vilna that we should know?
I think that you know it's probably that there are lots of reasons for that, but it's interesting because this year Vilnius is celebrating 700 years. They don't say years old; they say years young, but it's still 700, and to some extent, I mean, I think that this is also the beginning of the Jewish community here because Lithuanians celebrating 700 for Vilnius with a letter by the Duke, Gedimino, which was sent to different countries in the area and invited people from different background and different professions to come here. And I think that, I mean, many Jews also accepted this invitation as, you know, as an invitation for them because it was a place that allows them really to flourish, to keep, I mean, Jewish life. And so this is like the beginning of the Jewish community here to some extent. I think that, you know, that the part that education was such a central part in the life of the community, but not only that, because you spoke and rightly so about the worlds of yeshiva, and I would like to mention something later, but also when it comes to youth movement, and of course that the Yiddish literature, I mean,
of course,
it was really the
Vilna
center.
was the center.
Today the center after the war, it was moved with all the books that they managed to keep. Actually, it's based now in New York, the center of the Yiddish library, the huge library that was here. But I think that there was also the fact that, again, that the Jewish community, and maybe I can show you later from my window because you can see really the old town, but the Jewish community was based in really the center, central city. So I think that it allows them to be in touch with other communities, and also, I mean, many of them worked also, I mean, some of them were participated in the life of yeshiva, but not necessarily. I mean, some of them were working in different, you know, professions, and
yeah, I mean, people talk in the yeshiva world, or the more you know, right-wing Haredi world, people talk about the glory of the yeshivas in Europe. So yes and no, meaning on the one hand, the greatest yeshivas in history were in Lithuania and Europe. On the other hand, if you look at the number of how many students were in the entire Europe, I think someone told me that you know, before the war there were 3,000 yeshiva students in the entire Europe, and he was telling me that in the neighborhood of Beit Vagan in Jerusalem, which most people didn't even hear about, there are 3,000 yeshiva students. So yeah, so you know, the
but I think that the roots maybe, and in a way the culture of studying was really formed here. By the way, it wasn't just Lithuania at the time; it was also Belarus. I mean, and other, I mean, parts of Poland.
Latvia.
I mean, this region kept changing. I just want to tell you that I think like 3 weeks ago. First of all, I mean, if you look at the map of Jewish communities here before the war, and if you look at the map today, it's quite amazing to see the gap. I mean, from hundreds of, you know, small shtetls, big cities that had Jewish community. Today there are only more or less 6 Jewish communities, very small. I mean, the numbers are
what
really,
are they? If you don't mind mentioning, what are they? Which towns, cities?
So today there are Jewish communities in, of course, Vilnius, in Kaunas, in Kovna, in Klaipeda, in Šiauliai, and
I think it was called Shavil among Jews, right?
Yes.
And Kovna was Kovna, and Kaunas.
Yeah, Kaunas is Kovna, and it has also a very influential community. But it happens that many of the places, and maybe later I can show you some map of, I mean, of the communities before. And it's also, you know, up to people that are living here today, because today you will find many cities, small, medium sizes, who have no Jewish person there, that, you know, people are never met maybe a Jewish person. And some of them have like very dedicated people in that sense. And so it happened that I went to 3 weeks ago, I went to a very small town called Kedaini, not far away from here.
Is that what was called Koidinov?
I think it was Koidinov, and that was the center of the Mir Yeshiva.
Wow.
Yes, and the Mir Yeshiva today is actually based in America, I think in New York and
In
in
Brooklyn and
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, yeah.
Yes, and in Jerusalem, I mean, it's again, it's a place that, I mean, there is nobody here, but there is the director of the Jewish, oh, of the sorry, of the town museum took, upon his shoulder to devote some time, and he created a beautiful exhibition about the Jewish community there. And then you go and you see that there was like a Jewish bank, the Volksbank of Kedeni, and a Jewish person were actually, they were the one working in the firefighting department. So it
Wow.
was mostly Jewish people. And it's amazing to see how they were involved in city life, in town life, and today there is nothing. And this is the
Wow.
story of, unfortunately, of many, many small places.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really impressive to see that some people today are so dedicated in that sense that, I mean, it's not up to any Jewish person, it's just up to
Mm-hmm.
local people. So this is
Wow.
the story of this place, but there are so many others. And so it was really moving. I mean, to
Mm-hmm.
go there to see they renovated the building that was the Beit
Mm-hmm.
Midrash of the Mir Yeshiva, and now it's like a
Wow.
cultural concert hall. But,
Mm-hmm.
but you could definitely feel the spirit.
This very wow. So yeah, it's interesting because so many of the institutions in America, for example, I'll go one after the other. Yeshiva University is called Yeshivat Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan, and it's named for Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan Spector, the rabbi of Kovna. You have Yeshiva in Baltimore, big Yeshiva Ner Israel. That's founded by Rabbi Ruderman from Slobodka, and it's named for Rabbi Yisrael of Salant. You have Yeshiva Rabbi Chaim Berlin, where he learned in Slobodka, which obviously is the mother of many other yeshivot. Just many, and even Hasidically, a lot of people don't realize that Chabad is pretty much born in Lithuania. People mention Litvak as non-Hasidic, but there were many Hasidim in Lithuania. There was Chabad, there was Koidinov, Slonim, Karlin. So there's also the whole Hasidic side of Lithuania, which it's ironic because you have people a German Jew who's now religious will say, okay, I'm a Litvak, and they just mean that they're not Hasidish. And then you have someone whose grandfather is from Vilna, but he's a Chabad person, and he says, I'm not a Litvak, but in fact, he is a Litvak. So it's funny how Litvak also became sort of a name for the ideology, confusing the geography. Just
and I think that it's
yeah,
also a tendency of Litvaks to adapt anyone that ever
yeah,
came here. It was funny because I met in a conference the daughter of the late president Shimon Peres, and he was born in a town. Actually, today it's Belarus. But they adopted him as Litvak, and she told me he never thought about himself as a Litvak, but of course that, I mean, born in this region, it's nice to have also Paris into the club.
he's part of it. Yeah, no,
Yes.
there are many.
But no doubt that there are many influential people, as we mentioned before, of course, that in the world of yeshiva and the Jewish culture, but also, I don't know, Yasha Hefetz,
Yeah.
the famous violins, and some artists and writers and poets. I mean, it's really impressive. I mean, to see all the names that came from here. And some of them, by the way, I mean, also after the war, were very influential. I mean, also in Israel and also in other places. There is a big community, of course, in South Africa, in the States,
Yes. Yeah.
in Israel,
Wow.
and they're very influential. I mean, up to date. So.
Um, it is amazing, and I saw you celebrated your son's bar mitzvah in the synagogue in Vilna, and there's a famous story which became a song, "The Man from Vilna," and I'll just quickly share it if it's okay. So after the war, all of A.B. Rottenberg does it in a song better than me, but I'll just quickly share the story. There's these Jews who gather in Vilna after the war, and they want to see what's left, and they come into the synagogue, and there's no Sidurim, there's no Torah scrolls, the place is completely violated, and they realized that it's the night of Simchat Torah, and they wanted to dance, but there's nothing. And suddenly they see one child who survived, one single child who survived. And they realize that this child is the future of the Jewish people, and they pick him up, and all the dancing is around this child. And all these survivors, the person who picks him up on his shoulders is a soldier in the Red Army who helped defeat the Germans. And they pick this child up and they dance with him. And a lot of people don't know about this story, is that child is Abe Foxman from the ADL, who is, thank God, still alive. And the person who picked him up from the Red Army later became a rabbi in Detroit. They had an emotional meetup. So what's it like to celebrate a bar mitzvah in the synagogue in Vilnius, where a lot of people thought that it's all over for us, and there you are celebrating a bar mitzvah?
It was pretty amazing, and my son is relatively shy, so I mean it was hard for him, with being in the center, and family arrived, of course, from Israel, and it was very, very moving and meaningful. I think every bar mitzvah is, I mean, when joining that part of your life to the community. And by the way, just to circle the story, this is our fifth posting in Vilnius.
Wow.
And my son was born when we were posted in Costa Rica. So he had his Brit Milah there in the community, and we celebrated his bar mitzvah here in Vilnius. And again, it was extremely special and meaningful, and the guests were so moved by celebrating this. The synagogue is the choral synagogue. It's actually the only synagogue who survived. I mean, out of more than 100 synagogues here in Vilnius. So in that sense, I mean, this the ability today to come as free people, Israelis and Jewish, to celebrate. I mean, to have this ability to exercise Judaism without anyone, without being punished or is a special anyhow. And after the ceremony, we had like a guided tour in Jewish Vilnius with a local guide. And again, I did it a few times before, and I will probably do it again and again in my years here. And it's amazing because wherever you go in this city, I mean, it's like there is this saying that in Jerusalem, wherever you throw a stone, you hit either a holy place or something else. But it's the same here in Vilnius. I mean, wherever you go, you see that it was either, a Jewish theater or a Jewish synagogue or a Jewish business. And in some places there are plaques, in some places there are those memory stones on the ground, but definitely you feel that you're in a very, very special place. There are also a few like monuments for the Jewish community or for like famous Jewish figures. So there is a very, very nice statue of a Jewish doctor that was working here actually before the Holocaust. It's a Shabed. I don't know if you heard the name. He was like a very famous, not only within the Jewish community here, but also among others. He introduced like hygiene.
Oh, wow.
And he also treated many, children and also animals. He was a well-known figure in actually the Soviet world. So there is a statue for him, and there is a statue for Leonard Cohen, who also, I mean...
Wow, it's interesting. Another person, you mentioned great Lithuanian Jews, Isser Harel, the head of the Mossad who captured Eichmann, was also a Lithuanian Jew, and there's sort of some justice in that, in the sense that someone from Vilna would capture Eichmann. You're also, besides for living in Vilna, you are a ambassador who represents the state of Israel, and a lot of people don't know that in 1940, 1941, because of Lithuania's independence, many thousands, definitely tens of thousands of Jews fled to Vilna from east, from west, and the Jewish community did an extraordinary job taking them in. And what also happened is a lot of Jews, this was their last attempt to escape. That's how the Mir Yeshiva ended up also coming to Lithuania. And there were some great diplomats there, Sugihara, and a lot of other diplomats who used their year or whatever it was that they had a gap over there before the Nazis arrived to save Jews. So how does it feel to be in the shoes of diplomats like Sugihara and others who really stepped up to save many thousands of Jews, help them get to Shanghai or other places? How does that diplomatic legacy weigh in and hang on in Vilna?
Yeah, I will be very, very, humble to say that it's a model that I think that the question in general of righteous among the nation is really extraordinary. I think that it's a phenomenon that is always, hard to understand. And again, if we are going and looking again. First of all, like you rightly said, so I mean, Lithuania was a track in this Soviet period. It's one of the few countries that allowed other from Poland and other places to went through. And Siguara, by the way, he worked with the Dutch representative partner by the name of Jan Wenderdijk. So they worked together. I don't know if they knew each other actually, but it happened that the two of them really, because he issued a visa, but then the Dutch partner enabled.
I believe there was a Dutch colony east of Japan. That's
so
where people got transit visas. I forgot the name now. That's
yeah,
where the
so probably that was the name. He was an honorary consul. He was the representative of Philips in Kovna, and it happened that the two of them, really managed to save. By the way, also many, for example, if we go back to the Mir Yeshiva student, they were also saved by these two.
So yeah, so people got a visa. That people fled to Vilna, got a visa to this a transit visa through Japan to this Dutch colony, which they didn't end up going to. They went to I believe Japan, and from there they went to Shanghai. But yeah, these diplomats made history.
Definitely. And again, it's not easy. I mean, the idea to act in contrast sometimes to your government rules or decisions. It's not an easy, and it's amazing that they choose to do it. By the way, just next week, the current Lithuanian government is extremely positive when it comes to Holocaust-related topics. So in December, they adopted a law with regards to restitutions. One of the few countries in Europe that adopted such law, and also a decision to mark a day of righteous among the nations. So from coming week, it's March 15, and it's actually the date of the first Lithuanian that was awarded as righteous among the nations. She was a librarian in Vilnius University, so they will mark it annually. So next year we will have a ceremony in the university honoring righteous among the nations. And I will also mention that last November we had a visit of the chairperson of Yad Vashem, Dani Dayan.
Yeah, sure. It was New York. Yeah,
exactly. He was in general, and he's running now Yad Vashem, and we are very happy for the good cooperation. So he visited Lithuania, and again, there is a lot of work being done when it comes to improvement of curriculum in school, when it comes to studies. There are some topics that we still have to continue and work together, but we feel that in general the trend is positive. And one of the things we just received, before he came, we received from Yad Vashem information and medals for 4 families, Lithuanian families of righteous among the nations.
Wow.
So the Prime Minister was generous enough to host the ceremony, and we had a possibility to host them and to give them the awards and the medal, and it was also extremely moving event. So it's still happening here.
Wow, it's interesting because it's sort of a roller coaster because you mentioned Gademius. Lithuania was one of the most welcoming countries to Jews. That's why Jewish life flourished there, 1300s and on. And then you have the time of the Holocaust where it was so bad that the Nazis had to stop. 40,000 Jews were killed in the first 11 days. And it's the only country I know where the Nazis complained about the brutality and they said, okay, this is too much. And then today you have polls. I believe Lithuania is one of the countries in Europe with one of the lowest rates of anti-Semitic beliefs. And so it's sort of this country that you can see transforms itself. And it definitely, a lot of that is definitely thanks also to work of people like you, of building bridges. I wanted to mention another legacy from Lithuania a lot of people are not aware of, and that is the partisans. There's a lot of it's not just the fight of the partisans, but the music, a famous song. There's a song of the partisans in Yiddish. Right. The movie about the defiance. What do they call it? The brothers Bielski, maybe? Who are also Lithuanian. You have Abba Kovner, and you have this fighting spirit of Vilna. It's interesting. One of the poems about them, which by the way is homiletical. Some people thought it's real, but it's not. But one of the poems about the partisans speaks about the fact that they got the lead for their bullets from the printing press, the Rum printing press, where the famous Vilna Shas, the Talmud, is printed. So there's a poem that says we took the lead from the Rum printing press in the ghetto and we turned it into bullets. So first of all, just to be clear, I think some other people made mistakes about it. It's not literal. It's not that that's what happened, but the idea was that they got the feistiness of Lithuanian Jewry from there. So that takes a big part in Israeli culture, the partisans. Is there anything today about that, about the Jewish Lithuanian partisan? I forgot her name. There was Abba Kovner and another one, Hannah something, but they really they inspired many others.
Yeah, it's true, and actually I will just say, though we don't know of any family connection, Abba Kovner was actually working with Yitzhak Wittenberg in the ghetto.
Oh wow!
He was his deputy. Yes, so but I think that you're rightly so. I think that what is really very special in that sense is this spirit of fighting, and the Jewish community was here. Many of them are communist, but I think that we're connected to ideology, and they really took it very seriously in that sense. And by the way, Lithuania is marking also, I think, one of the few countries that has a Holocaust Memorial Day of its own. It's September 23rd, and it's the day of the liquidation of the Vilnius ghetto. We mark our day in Israel on April, on the day of the liquidation of the Warsaw ghetto. But here, the National Day, and it is a big day. We are going usually with the Prime Minister, sometimes with the President, with some high official to Punar, to Panay, where the majority of the Jewish people from Vilnius were shot not far from here. So there is also a great commitment in that sense. So again, the memory and dealing with the Holocaust is something that is still very alive here. Though not only that, I think that Vilnius remember very clearly also the contribution of the Jewish society here. And for example, in 2020 was declared as the year of the Gaon. And there were lots of events taking place here, seminars and cultural and academic events that were all dedicated to the Gaon from Vilnius. So I think that there is a balance there also with this. But it's
Look, I'm a very, very, very proud Litvak and Lithuanian. I think there's unparalleled contributions Lithuanian Jewry has made. Two fields that I'm happy to admit we didn't contribute as much as other Jewish communities are music and food. The part of the Lithuanian music, there isn't so much. There are a few tunes. I'm happy to send it to you later. But they were busier learning, and the music wasn't. The music is pretty Lithuanian.
I totally agree with regards to the food.
The food.
Totally.
I mean, people say.
But when it comes to music, first of all, there is the great known poet, the Yiddish poet Satskover, Abraham Satskover.
Yeah.
I'm sure that many
but
are
that's
familiar
writing.
with.
It's not a tune.
Yeah, it's writing. But in terms of music, I don't know if you're familiar with the name of Nechama Lifshitz, but Nechama was also an Yiddish singer. And it was interesting because she wasn't allowed to go from here at the Soviet time, so she became like a symbol of freedom all over this former Soviet world. Eventually, she went to Israel, if I remember correctly. She also became a librarian. But you can look up later on the Nechama Lifshitz. You will find really wonderful music. So at least with that. But on the food, we are definitely agree.
On the food, it's I mean, people say, what kinds of food were there in Lithuania? I say mostly that there wasn't food because but you know what? There was also a kind of Spartan spirit. I saw a story, two rabbis talking about it. Is a sort of Lithuanian Jewry folk tale. And they're talking about different books, and there was a lot of intellectual elitism. And so one of them said about this book in a denigrating way, you can see that the author wrote this while drinking tea with sugar, because that was considered to be indulgent. And, you couldn't be a true intellectual if you were drinking tea with sugar. That was so there was this almost correlation between how austere you were and how and how intellectual you were. So in a way, they idealized their separation from wealth and from this world. But yeah, look, I still, I know it's not much of a tune, but I still sing with my kids every Shabbat the Lithuanian Karibon, which is, I don't know if you know it, Karibon. No, sorry, not that. Yeah, I think it is Karibon. But that's I think one of the only Lithuanian tunes out there. But anyhow, I just
but I mean, coming back to modern time, I mean, of course, we have Leah Goldberg, and many of she was born actually not far from Kovna, from Kaunas, but she was raised there, and she studied Hebrew. And it's amazing to see, it was her second language, and she started to write a diary when she was, I think, around 9 years old. And it's amazing to see her Hebrew. And of course, then she moved to Israel, and she became a professor and poet and writer. And many of her songs, I don't know if it's count, but many of her songs, are still, very, very popular today. And
there is a song that I think you would appreciate more than anyone, Vilna Geslach, the streets of Vilna. You ever see that?
Yes.
So that's it's a later song. It's in Yiddish, but anyhow, there's just a lot to unpack, and you're doing incredible work, and in many ways you're remaking history, because there's so much in the past, and so much of it can be brought to life by the connection to Israel, by the a lot of the materials you see in Yad Vashem. You see the schools. There were many Zionist schools in Lithuania, and you see children there's a very emotional video where you see children singing Hatikva, and really a lot of these Jews, their last words were, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, or thinking about Israel. So I cannot imagine what it's like to represent what many of them had as their dying wish. The idea of Jews living in a sovereign
I will
state.
just add on that just a week ago I got back from Israel. I was there together with the Lithuanian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Landsbergis, and he has also a very interesting personal story. And the mother of his grandfather was in Righteous Among the Nations. She saved two Jewish women or girls. Actually, if I I mean, as far as I know, they're related to the family of Emmanuel Levinas, the French philosopher from Kaunas. So, it's a very small world, but of course we had a very moving visit to Yad Vashem, and again, for him to see this part dedicated to Vilnius and to Kovna was extremely moving. The other thing, I mean, there is still a Jewish school here in Vilnius, though again the community is very small. But I have to say that there are also many Lithuanian non-Jewish that are sending their children to this school because it's known for the high academic level.
Wow.
So I mean, many of them really standing in queue in order to send their children to this school because it's well known to be still a very good academic, which is a great one.
Wow. All right, Hadas Wittenberg Silverstein, thank you so much, and I'm sure there's so much.
I hope we will have a chance to have you here in Vilna.
In Vilna, thank you. Maybe one day it's going to be a book. I'm sure you see, between all the communities that you see and everything, it means so much to so many, and more than it means to us. Obviously, it means to those who used to live there and died in the Holocaust, or even the many generations of hundreds of years before that of Jews who saw Vilna and Lithuania as their home. So thank you for that and for what you do for the Jewish people, the state of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and all the best.
All right, thank you.